Oh, what I said.
It's just recording a video right now.
Right.
Well, you want me
Which
to
we're not
start
going to use before the audio.
How do you know we're not
kicks
going
in?
to use it?
Before the audio kicks
What,
in?
you think you know everything?
Yeah. Okay.
Who killed JFK?
Technically, LHO.
We were recording.
No, you weren't.
Yes, I was.
No, now it's red.
It was red. I was covering it.
I just looked and it was green a minute ago. Or when you said that, you mean?
Yeah.
When you said
I had
that.
covered it. Welcome back, you fancy beast, you something, you tasty treats.
You silly fuck.
Oh, another edition of If You Mess With That Anymore.
Well, it's kind of awkward when I'm like this looking through the spokes of the microphone stand at you.
I personally like to not have to look at you.
Well,
I've made mine taller so I can see you perfectly and the camera. See this?
valid
I'm not
point.
looking through anything.
yeah, but then I got to angle it down. Okay, I guess I can do that.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
That's awkward looking, but okay.
It is. Well, there's not
Like
really...
me.
We're in a tight setup. I think we have to kind of break the... I mean, they know that. But welcome back to... Dude, a minute of nonsense. This show is doomed. Welcome back to another episode of PairONormies. We are your hosts, Steve.
And Dan.
And tonight, well, Daniel's feeling a little under the weather. We went out to S2, me and Steve, and we were on special assignment out there. I got into a tussle with some of the boys, and Steve's like, dude, they're going to use that new tech on you that makes you sick just by pointing at you. It's like, no, they're not. Sure enough, they're like,
If they don't want you in, if you look sketchy, then they
Yeah.
just point that gun at you as you're walking. You're standing in line all anxious with your
yeah.
your Dora the Explorer backpack you had on, and
I'm all excited to go in. I'm like,
and they make you, they're like, this guy's a sketch ball, so they make you sick. That way, when you get up to the front of the line, your temperature's high and you can't go in. And they're like, oh, it's just COVID.
That's right.
Nothing suspicious going on here.
yeah, just alien tech. Oh, God.
Do you think we came up with cell phones? Do you think we reverse engineered alien technology, and that's how we, like, not just specifically cell phones, but things like that?
I don't know. There's a good case to be made for it, though, because that I know that's a common thought, but it's like there was some really, really weird jump in tech. Abrupt.
But I also
Fast.
think that, like, when you figure out one thing like that, and I hope not, because that I tend to want to believe that we're capable of those sort of things, which I'm sure I know we are, but
Well, and one thing with tech seemingly leads to another. But the thing is, when you're changing the tech, it really doesn't. I mean, I guess maybe some of the protocols do, and that makes it easier.
like they come up with articles about like how they've discovered these new things, these days especially, but it's usually not any giant leap. It's usually like some new technique and way to process data and things like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Weird, though. Yeah,
It would
there does
suck- it would
seem to
suck-
be...
It would suck for us to be like the first race that just cheated by copying the other race's homework. The other,
I know, dude,
the other
I know.
civilizations.
Well, I just listened to, because one of my favorite movies is 2001: A Space Odyssey. I love Kubrick. And I listened to Arthur C. Clarke, the audiobook, while I was working. I listened to the whole thing, the novel. And it's definitely a little more based in like science and math than the movie comes across, even though Kubrick was like a sleeper master of math. I mean, like, people didn't realize this guy was like genius level, just insane. And that was kind of the point, which is weird that you bring that up. I listened to that last night, and they were talking, like the whole 3 arc of 2001 was, this little timid caveman monkey that was part of a group that was really kind of like an outlier and started to think and use objective thought and started using tools and stuff just out of the blue. Like, he was just one of those different monkeys, and he made the first weapon and he used it, and his tribe saw it in horror, and he killed like, some saber tooth that everyone was scared of and shit. And then that leads to human dominance of tech and space, obviously way further in the future, and how we're out now, exploring these outer planets, and then he's taken in by whatever you're comfortable with calling it, the architect, God, aliens, whatever the next step is. And he's like treated really well and stuff by them, but he's like an experiment. He's like, if you found a hurt little hamster, you would, if you're a nice person, you put him in a comfy little box with the things you think it likes to eat and the things you think it's comfy, it's weird. And I never really caught that till I read the novel. But it's one of those things that it's like, given enough time the loose context of that is we are going to evolve.
Right.
It takes one person to think wrong or odd to spark growth, and it happens. Right. It's inevitable. But
I worry sometimes that we hinder our own evolution by
being homogenized.
Yeah,
I agree.
Just doing certain things.
100%.
Yeah.
This is what scares me. This is why we're in a golden age of tech and science, because they're not. So also why we're in a golden age of TV, because they'll risk the money on a TV show, so you still have these like fantastic directors and producers making these shows. We're in a golden era of TV. Yeah. But you're right, that to that point, it's so right that like you see that in movies, you see that in music. There's so much homogenization, so much in the box thinking that it's never going to lead to anything cool. And the only way that it would is tiring out your listeners, so to the point where they're like, I don't want this anymore. Give me something wacky. Yeah, because I'm so over it.
I was thinking as far as preventing our own evolution. I mean, like more like spending too much time with entertainment and worrying about being politically correct and those types of things. So like we spend so much time dealing with mundane, idiotic stuff in our day-to-day lives that it's like we don't have enough time to innovate and do
right.
Things.
We're distracted.
Right. Yeah. And it's all about that's kind of how they want it, like because they just want you to buy the next iPhone and do this, whatever.
Right.
It's a consumer.
I remember complaining to
society.
A mutual friend of ours, Andrew, about I thought that was like coming out about why art is so void of human trait recently. And he's like, they don't care, man. He's like, the people that are selling it, like they want you to feel bad, so you're binging Pepsi and Doritos and watching Jersey Shore or whatever. And it's a good point. There is definitely a point there. But that again, that entertains the ringleader theory. It's like, who wants you to feel bad to buy that? Advertisers?
Yeah.
I mean, are they really that clever? Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm a pretty strong proponent of like the fact that we tell them what we want, and we unfortunately tell them we want junk a lot.
Well,
of
yeah,
times.
yeah. Right. The majority tell them. Right. We don't.
Right.
Well, you do. Today's episode, we still have not fully ironed out the show, but we're working on it. I think we've got some cool things planned. We did let's do a quick recap. That was a fun little starter. We talked about famous Maine haunts. I think I titled our second episode that. I don't know if you know that yet. But we are pretty sure that we're following up on
I'm going to try to follow up on
Cosmopolitan's 2017
most haunted place in Maine,
which is
the Kennebec Arsenal in Augusta.
The old Amhi mental health facility as well, which is like I said to Nate on our last episode, he asked how it went, the last one. And I was like, we're talking about Maine haunts. And I was like, dude, I didn't realize that Amhi hit so many check boxes.
Yeah.
Checked.
Well,
an old facility for mental health, an old army barracks of some sort, abandoned. Come on.
Well, so the thing is, I can't really find enough data in any of the articles I've looked up or that I've read, but there's an old building, which is the one that was built in like right after the War of 1812. And then there's the Amhi that, I don't know how long that one was in operation, but like they talked about like how many residents it had and things like that. I mean,
they might be different places.
So like the Amhi that most people are familiar with is the big series of brick buildings. It looks like it's a massive campus. There was like thousands of patients. Like I don't know how many, but at one point.
So the one with
even that's old. I think it was built in like the late 1800s, something like that. But I want to say that like I don't know what years from each one was in operation from and to, because even the newer one that was built in I think the later 1800s, could have been early 1900s. I don't know, probably early 1900s. Sounds more accurate, but that is even not in operation anymore. And there's a new facility that's was built in like 2004. That when they're saying it was shut down, it was built in 2004. Now it's Riverview Psychiatric Facility.
Oh,
so
this is news to me.
Yeah, so Amhi, the new Amhi closed in 2004, but it's still in operation, just under a different name, in a new facility.
Right. So it's not the same facility,
right?
But it was existing at one point in time in the old barracks or the arm. What was it? A barracks? What was it?
They said arsenal. It was
arsenal.
It was like a fort. It was a defense.
Okay.
Structure. Yeah.
But we're pretty sure that's the one we're aiming at for number one, if we can.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool.
So you've got to work on that end. We've got a lot of fun stuff planned. We have, and I think the cat's out of the bag. We can at least say that it's happening. We just don't know when. We have locked in a fellow Maine native that Steve and I found, Michelle Soulier, I think is her name. If I butchered that, actually, you know what? I'm going to check. I never pull my phone out, but I don't want to get her name wrong.
99% sure that's what you said.
Okay, I need to make sure. Yes, Michelle Soulier. She is a Portland, Maine-based paranormal writer. I don't know if she's fiction or nonfiction. I should have looked into that. But it's actually cool because we've said from the get-go, and we'll keep saying, the whole point of this is to take a very cavalier approach to, we're not trying to destroy any beliefs or tamper or step on anyone's, thoughts and long-held traditions. We're just examining them through our normie filter. That's what we're doing. So I actually like that in a dumb way. I mean, it's kind of irresponsible that I didn't figure that out first, but I kind of like it. I'll ask her when she calls in. So at least for the first one, we're going to have her do an call into the show. Probably next episode. That would be cool to do that then. But then after that, we'll do, hopefully, either we'll have her here or we can have her join us maybe on a haunt. That would be really cool. That'd or a hunt. A hunt.
I think, yeah, four, well, it really doesn't matter, but 4, 3, whatever would be a great number. Even, 2 is fine to be able to like they do on if you ever watch BuzzFeed's Unsolved, they'll send one of the other guys down into a basement or something like that to sit for a little bit. And,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Didn't Taps used to do that? They would isolate somebody to see if they found anything.
Yeah.
Not for the purpose of isolation, but people would go to separate areas and just sit.
Yeah.
And wait.
Yeah.
It does. It on that topic. It very much does. Unless here's the other thing, I don't know how accurate either of our perceptions are. Because my perception is the show started with complete stalemates, and toward the end, a lot of experiences. Now, that could be that they ended up going to more haunted places toward the end because the budget was there.
Getting more money, yeah.
Right. Or I don't want to say what the alternate could be.
Right. And that's what would worry me about a situation like that, where we're going to some place that we're trying to, quote unquote, investigate or just kind of dig into and
you were looking for anything.
Well, you're looking for anything, but also that's why I would doubt any experiences that I had unless it was corroborated by somebody else.
Me, her, Nate, whoever's there.
Right.
Yeah.
If someone else could verify, I saw the same thing. What are the chances that our minds both created the same hallucination or whatever you want to call it, or glitch?
Probably pretty low.
Right.
The other thing would
if it was just me, I'd be like,
yeah,
it could have been any sort of subconscious thought, or just it could have been something like a bug that out of the corner of my eye,
or as Ebenezer Scrooge says, a piece of undigested bread or meat. He goes, "There's more of gravy than grave of you." That is one of the best lines.
I've never heard that.
Charles Dickens, A Christmas Carol,
the newer one.
It was based on a book from.
Well, I know that, but there was a newer show. I'm not sure. I don't know if it was a quote from the show or a quote from the book.
I hope if that's not a quote from the book, kudos to whoever wrote the screenplay. But I think that is from the book. There's more of gravy than There's more of gravy than grave of you, or something like that. I don't know. Genius line. Genius. He's a great writer. But it's weird. I was talking to a friend of mine who's coming on my podcast. They both want to come on this one though at some point. So you'll probably see them. But we were talking about paranormal stuff, and I forgot her story, and I wish I didn't, because she just told me and I was going to tell you.
I got to stop messing.
Yeah, just stop. You're like, I want to Vogue. If this is ever listened to by anyone over our immediate family, it's probably 90% just going to be heard.
Yeah, true.
I mean, who cares?
True.
This
That's
is
why
some
I was
artistic
messing
shot.
with it a minute ago, because I was trying to tell if I couldn't tell.
Dude, I'm so blind I can
blocking
barely
my
tell
vision.
we're on screen.
Yeah.
That's pretty pathetic. I'm serious. I can see our blobs and movement barely. Oh, 13. Dude.
You're like, what room are we in?
I'm pretty sure that's nothing to do with your vision. You should know what room you were last in. We're in a time warp.
Why?
Only 14 minutes has gone by. When I usually look, it's at least 30. It just flies in this room.
And that seems about right to me.
Yeah, not me, man. That's another thing. Let's talk about that. So something you and I talk about frequently is how much how we perceive time incorrectly or inaccurately lends to our stories of spooks. Like you and I had addressed it at one point about all of these tales of people going missing with other people there. They're like, I turned around for 2 minutes and they were gone. It's like, if you ask 99% of people to tell you when 2 minutes is up, they're wrong.
Right.
They just guess it wrong.
Unless they're just sitting there and you're like, okay, just stay quiet. Tell me when 2 minutes is up. They'll get it pretty accurately.
Even then, I don't know what the stats are. I'd imagine it's still not. It can't be perfect.
Their tests they've done with people under the influence of just certain drugs, narcotics, things like that, alcohol even, and they have them close their eyes and count to what they believe is 30 seconds, and like it varies sometimes by like 20 seconds,
right?
You know, depending on like just the state of their mind because of whatever drug or you know substance they're on, and yeah, it's pretty interesting. So like same thing without the substance, your state of mind can be altered just by your physiological state,
whatever you're releasing for endorphins. Yeah. Well, the other thing is, imagine then trying to be accurate when you're not knowing that's what you need to do.
Right.
Like you don't have a timer when you looked back, like, oh, that had been like, you don't know. That's not what you're thinking about. Because that's, you're entertaining the fact that they knew someone's going to go missing to pay attention. You don't know. I never paid. How long was I in Walmart?
Right.
You know, I don't know. I don't look when I get there and look when I leave. So I could tell you in a story about a kidnapping or something if I was, you know, like someone went missing when I was in a Walmart and they're asking me, you know, they're interviewing everyone that was in there, how long were you in here? I would not know unless I looked because you don't have a timer going. So I'm just, again, I think just these 3 episodes, I think, and this is an important point, not to cut you off, but I think we need to say this. I'm actually only 2.5 episodes in, realizing that my aggressiveness sometimes in my skepticism is just a tiredness. Like I think a lot of that stuff is just people should know to not say that stuff to inflate a story, because it's not that it helps sell it. It's that for people that don't buy it, it makes it even harder to believe anything else in the story.
Right.
So you might be right and have credibility in certain parts, but I'm disregarding it because you're being sensational.
Simple things like, numerous stories I've heard told on whether it be podcasts or on a documentary or something like that. I have to because of the way they word it, I have to be like, I wish they would have worded it this way because it would have seemed more credible, because they seem so convicted of this belief that they're trying to like almost kind of hint towards, like in like the, you know, missing persons cases when they're talking about like, oh, you know, it couldn't have been this because blah, 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 or, you know, it had to have been something paranormal, or they had to have been abducted by aliens because blah, blah, blah. But like, if they just left it more open, like if they said in that instance, like with the time being like, it was probably 2 or 3 minutes, but then again, like if they just added that little bit more by 100%. Saying like, but then again, I wasn't counting, I wasn't timing it. So
how many people have you pulled over?
My perception currently is 2 or 3 minutes, but that could be realistically anywhere from, you know, 1.5 minutes to 6 minutes. You know what I mean?
It could be 20.
Right.
If you're not paying attention. It's like, think
that's
about this.
A little bit of a stretch, I think.
Well, hold on.
Depending. But
well, let me flip tables real quick. How many people have you pulled over that were inebriated that told you 2 beers and it was 20?
Yeah, but that's just because that's just a number to say that seems.
Everyone fucking says it.
It's true. A lot of people.
It's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like if you.
But I think it's because it's precipitated to the precipitated.
I don't even know what you're getting at, so I don't know if that's right. It's what?
Precipitated is rain.
Yep. I think that's because when there's heavy weather, you know, that's what comes down. I need to stop doing a southern accent.
Think of where it. Anyway, it's just something that people hear, and then they think that like, oh, that's an okay number. That means it's like there's no way I'd be drunk, and so they just say that number because like 3 drinks, like maybe somebody might be drunk.
Oh, right, that's like the universal safe.
Yeah, sure. I think that's kind of it. I don't think it's actually an estimate of how many drinks they've had.
But I think, and I don't think this starts and ends at paranormal stuff. I think any account of something. It's not that you have to be apathetic, but it's like if you can try to be as accurate as you can, someone's going to buy that story more. I think maybe I'm just projecting.
Not only accurate, but self-critical and accepting of the fact that I might be totally wrong here, because I think by just saying something like that, like, listen, what I saw, what I perceived was this. What that was, what that means, I don't know. Like by saying something like that and not being so convicted of assigning a story or assigning an explanation to the unknown when it is in fact unknown lends credibility to somebody versus just, you know, assigning a story to it or assigning an explanation to it because nothing else makes sense.
Sure.
Causes people to be like, well, this guy seems a little bit insistent that it's going to be something paranormal.
That's right. This is why right. Because he's insistent of other points that he doesn't know or can prove. It's like, that's what I'm saying. I'd like to think, even though hindsight is 20/20, I would like to think if I was in those woods and someone that I was with went lost, my answer would really be, I don't know. We were walking. I remember I said something to him, and I turned around. It might have been a minute. It could have been 10. It definitely wasn't more than 15. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. I'd be like, whatever this guy has more to say, I like it. Because he's trying to...
Unless you could say, I remember I said something to him, and he mentioned plans later on the day, and I looked down at my watch to see what time it was, and I remember it was this time, and then he was missing. We looked for maybe... we yelled for like 30 seconds.
Right.
And, we yelled 4 or 5 times. And then I was like, how long has it been? And I looked down at my watch and saw it was a different time.
Right.
But like not just saying, oh, I know that I looked back and it was 2 minutes later that I checked and he was gone.
Right.
Like being able to really give a good explanation, or like you said, just simply saying it could have been a lot more than that. The way I'm recalling it, it was, probably.
I mean, there's other, like I probably would think if there was a conversation, I'd be like, if I remembered what he said, how long does that take to say? Did I respond? But the thing is, that's like detective thing. Some people just don't,
and I think
calculate stuff like that.
And I think when you're trying to past tense, kind of go back in your mind and estimate time, I think one thing that affects that estimation a lot, is how many things you kind of thought about in the meantime. Like if 10 different thoughts went through your head, even if they went through your head relatively rapidly, I feel like you'd be more apt to estimate a longer period of time than if your mind was just blank.
Right.
Well,
you got less in the processor.
Right.
So they say one thing to you and you're like, Control Alt Delete, Control Alt Delete, end task. It's so bad. Oh, so another thing we need, because I love to just break the fourth wall and say this all on air, we need to fill out our sound bank.
Yeah.
With famous or semi-famous paranormal things. Like I thought about like, here's Johnny from The Shining, like shit like that for our show. Because we don't have anything. We just have our intro song.
Yeah.
As you can see. That's why that's red. It's just the color I gave it. All these are dead. But we could find that. I mean, we could do even funny, like Ghostbusters. I'm sure we could find a funny.
I'm on our, well, I can't say that. It'll ruin it.
What?
What I'm going to wear on our first.
I know what Nate's going to wear.
Do you, is it because what we said we're going to do?
Yeah.
We're
going to tell him.
Okay.
It's going to be so good, dude. I really think this show will actually shine on location. Yeah. I love this, and this is great, and I do feel like we're kind of coming into a rhetoric every time, and like, it's starting to feel like we're getting kind of where we go, which is cool. But again, I said this to him on the phone earlier, bring the listener in for a second. We were talking about production and producing and reaching out to talent, trying to get guests and lining up places to go. And I really think like that is kind of an overarching theme of the whole channel, is just like upfront, honest, open. Like we are aware that we're not some well ironed out show with big money behind us or a big network. That's kind of our shtick.
Right.
And like a lot of people might hide behind that because they want the enamor. They want people to think they have that because they want, there is a art to that and getting people to jump in because they think it's the next big thing. Whatever. It's like, we're just chilling. We're two normies, a PairONormies. I said that in, I think our YouTube bio, I don't remember. I just wrote it half asleep. I was like, what they lack for, what do you get when you put two normies together? A pair. What they lack in something, technical savvy, they have normalcy and spades or something, because we're just two dopes trying to pretend we know anything about anything paranormal. Where does I want to shift conversation for a second, 24 minutes in. Where do our bounds, because I think the first episode we were realizing, and into the second, that the paranormal, I thought we were pigeonholed by having a paranormal theme, and I realized there's so much more paranormal stuff than we thought. It's not just ghosts and aliens. It's so much.
Yeah.
What about witches? We could talk about witch trials, Wiccans in general. Is there anything to witches?
Bring them back.
You're like, you've got one sleeping upstairs. But no, like, where did that start? Like, what was the pagan, religions that it came from? And what is that? What about ancient societies that have like kind of an esoteric angle to them? The Egyptians and...
That's a thing with... religion, I guess you want to call it religion in those certain beliefs. I feel like, well, then again, part of me says that all of that had to have come from something. Like it didn't just get made up. But then again,
think about what people will say.
Like
5,000 years from now about the micro SD card in that camera.
Yes, but but also what I'm getting at is like,
You're like, well, wait, hold on.
We
They'll say it's from aliens, and it was, right? What's your point?
we make up. I was going to say that it's like it couldn't just be made up from nothing, but we make so many things up out of nothing these days.
Oh, we love to. And this is exactly my point. It's like everyone's like, Daniel, why are you such an insufferable skeptic and you don't buy people's, stories? I'm like, dude, have you listened to the stories we've made about anything we don't know about?
Well, and it's like, yeah, like how hard is it to make up the story of
the Egyptians could have been boring as fuck.
Right.
Slave labored pyramids that have nothing special, that were big tombs. I don't believe that, but they could have been. And we make it.
You don't believe the tombs were tombs?
I don't believe that's all the tombs were.
Okay.
They're too intricate. Why would anyone go through that? Because you're talking.
It's a flex, though, too. A little bit.
It is a little bit of a flex. That's true. Yeah, it's true.
Like, I want to have running water, but we don't even know what that is.
You're like, sir, this won't even be built before you're dead. You won't even get to see your project through. Like, I don't care.
I don't care. I want a pool table.
Yeah, like, you put me on ice. Like, it's way too. Ice hasn't been created yet. Like, we live in way too hot of a climate to even know what ice is. You better find ice.
Like, where can we find it? What is it? I don't know.
I saw a meme today that was like, absolutely nobody, or colon. And then it said American science textbooks. And it was a pharaoh, and he was white as. When I say white, I mean white. He could have been a lead on Vikings. Like, dude, it is so, I don't know how I've never seen that, but it was so funny. It's so bad. We're crazy.
Well, I think they just base it off of what we know, the people that we know that currently live in that region, which they're not white, but I'm saying, like,
I was going to say that, dude, this guy, I don't think you realize how white the picture was. It looked like Archie.
Was it a picture from a textbook?
Yeah.
Was it legit? Oh.
It was hilarious. It's like all the Catholic, instances of Jesus, and he's so white. It's like, dude,
he lived in the Middle East.
Come on, get a brain. People are like, don't you do it?
Don't bring Jesus into this.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm anxious to do something
in the field.
Yeah.
Nate wants us to send you out into the field. And I'm like, that's cool, and have you call in and do skits about it. I'm like, you're not on our show. How are we going to, like, you could sub in and we could send Steve out in the field. I'm like, but that's not going to be a lot of fun. Like, why wouldn't, I mean, I think he's thinking of doing it as, I should probably stop talking about it because I'm pretty sure he wants to do it as a skit, not real.
Oh.
We could put you in the backyard with a camera light being chased by a Blair Witch. Just like, oh, it looks like we lost it. And you redo the snot scene and the crying.
Shining my light on my face. Like, not pointing it at anything, just on my face. Like, why are you pointing it at my face? Oh, well, I'm not.
You're like, I got to see something with my camera. You're pointing it at you. Like, dude, we can't see anything but your nostrils. Like, oh, man. But no, I think you're right. So I actually think the first one we should do is.
And you just, like, are you in the bathroom? Like, yeah.
You're like, no, I'm not. You hear a flush, like, you're in the bathroom. Like, okay, I'm in the bathroom. I don't want to go. I'm too scared. Get in here. You hear a door close. You're right there. I think we should go try to find Lady Nordica first.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, colleges even though we're, knock on wood, coming out of COVID times, they're still pretty safe. Stuff like that. Like, I don't know how easy it would be to get access to that. Unless we didn't ask. We could always just do it.
Break in.
No, I mean, isn't it always open? It's a college.
You don't break in. You just pick the lock.
Yeah, I'm not going to break anything. Jesus, calm down. Like, it's still breaking and entering. Like, I didn't break anything.
I'm not going to break a window. I'm going to remove a window.
Like, also, if you leave after, it negates the entering. Like, I'm pretty sure that's not how that works. It's not illegal if you don't steal nothing. Like, what? Sometimes I break into my next door neighbors and watch TV while they're sleeping. I leave. I even vacuum where I sat. Why would you? They're like, honey, what's that? You just run and dive through a window. Yeah. Dude, talk about paranormal stuff. If anyone has a Dyson vacuum, that thing sounds like a alien laser gun when it shuts off. It is so wild sounding. I want to record it and use it on something. Oh,
I'm gonna bring. Can you imagine if like something happens on a investigation or whatever you want to call them, an outing, and like all of a sudden you see like I have a lightsaber.
Full like Where did you buy a full production scale model of a lightsaber? Like, how much you spend on that?
You're gonna need it.
How much you spend on that? You're like, how much did you spend? $1,300. How much? $1,300. I can't hear you. How much did you spend? $1,300. $1,300.
We needed a camera.
Yeah.
You can still get one.
He goes, I don't know. I also needed a lightsaber. I ran into Darth Maul.
like, but because the camera going to protect us against the ghost.
You look at the camera in our vlog, you're like, idiots. What's a camera going to do against a ghost? Like, what's a lightsaber going to do? A fake light-up replica.
And then, like, the camera...
Oh, it's so stupid.
Something happens, we hear a noise. You guys turn and, like, whip the camera around, and you just hear crash. I'm like, it broke. I just whip it around. Hits like a post and break. Just like...
Hi, Finney. Finney got excited because we're laughing. Right for the crotch. Finn, don't trip on that. Don't let him trip on that wire when he walks out, because he probably will. Oh, God. 31 minutes in. What else do we got? Do you have anything? Well, the thing is, we kind of exhausted. The whole point of this show is that we haven't experienced anything paranormal. So right, yeah. We have no personal. I could tell you a story. Yeah, here we go. This story was told to me by one of my relatives when I was young. Me and my sister Brooke, who is the polar opposite of me, endlessly naive, believes everything, believes ghosts, jinn, chupacabra, aliens, witches, Frankenstein's, vampires,
Wendigos,
you name it. Yep. I think I mentioned actually episode 1 that I made Brooke. I called this relative on speakerphone and made Brooke hear it from her that she made this up. And I'm like, Brooke, of course she did. But she told us there was this famous house in Waterville, Maine. And little Johnny, he liked the girls in the playground. And you're like, did Johnny get canceled?
Did Johnny going to get us canceled?
Yeah, or is he going to get us canceled? No. And he used to pick on this girl because he liked her. He'd pull her hair and stuff, and she'd be like, don't do that. I don't like it. She told the teacher. Teacher calls his dad. Johnny's dad was a mill-working man, real hard-working man, and he didn't like no nonsense. And he warned Johnny a few times. You cut that out. And, he didn't listen. And he did it again and again and again. So one day he got home and Johnny's dad started taking off his belt. See, he goes, not to say, and he goes, you go to the barn. I'll meet you in there. So Johnny goes to the barn.
And his dad went into the closet, tightened the belt around his own neck, and then
Jesus. Hung himself. That's where you were going. No.
Yeah, sure.
So he goes to go to the barn, and Johnny gets a pitchfork. And he's like, I'm just going to scare him. So maybe he runs away and I can get out of here. And he kills his dad, hits his dad, and he kills him.
You would have had to stab him with a pitchfork.
Stephen, do you listen?
A hit wouldn't have killed him, but
And so his dad was smoking a cigarette, and it hit the hay. And what Johnny didn't know is his dad had locked the door behind him. But the lock was too high for Johnny to reach. So the barn caught ablaze and burned down with little Johnny inside. Now, the whole structure didn't go up in flames. It didn't get ruined. The bones were still there, and they rebuilt the barn. But it is said that to this day, at the strike of midnight, you can see little Johnny with a pitchfork in the hay window, whatever it's called. Now,
the hayloft.
Hayloft, yeah, whatever. So that was the story, one of them. And I was like, that's pretty clever. If she came up with that, I'm like, that's pretty good. I mean, she's not a, author. Like, that's pretty decent. Brooke, all of 33 years old, was 30 when she found out that story was made up. Because she couldn't put two and two together and be like, that's obviously not true.
Right.
But that's Brooke. And so I feel like my level of skepticism was born and nurtured out of being surrounded by insufferable, not believers. That sounds really bad to shit on them. That's fine. But, Brooke had no basis in reality with things that she believed.
It's pointless for me to bring this up, but I can't help myself. Speaking of fires, have you seen those like new like decorative, like you can get like the Death Star, you can get like all these like they're like decorative something to put like on your end table, like just like a decorative piece to put in your living room.
No.
But when fire hits them, they like crack open and like blow up, like
Crack open and blow up a what?
Get really big, and whatever's in them is fire retardant. It's supposed to put out like a large area of fire when they catch fire.
Oh, the whole time you're talking, I'm like, how would fire ever? I didn't know it was like a flame retardant thing.
Yeah.
Because I was like, why would anyone want that? Why would fire hit it? That's so dangerous. But yeah, that's cool.
It's interesting. They make like a bunch of
so it's basically like
like
the foam and an extinguisher, but a bomb of it.
Something like that. It's some sort of contents that when like it's like reacts, and they had like industrial looking ones that aren't a special design. They just say like fire something on them, and they hang in like a basket on a wall, and like if heat gets to them, they crack open and like
I like it.
Apparently prevent things from burning. I don't know.
What if a ghost hits them?
Made me think of it. Ghosts, they're ghost resistant as well. Yeah.
Can we do an episode dressed up as Ghostbusters? Dude, we should do this would get costly, but each episode going forward, we should do a light cosplay of paranormal movies.
I don't know.
You're thinking about it. You're like, it's not a bad idea. A lot of work, and I'm lazy as shit. Oh. Has this episode been a sleeper?
I don't think so.
I think it's been good.
But anyway, back to whatever we were talking about before, which was
don't hold your drink.
Huh?
God.
I don't need to hold anything. I just
hold your manhood. You gotta play with something. Yeah, so I think we should try the Nordica thing.
Yeah, either or could.
Well, both, but we should. I mean, that one we could literally, if we were gonna guerrilla style it, we could go anytime. But I mean, we could just ask and be like, we're not going to be in anyone's way.
Yeah. That would be easier for me to know who to reach out to and get permission to do it. But yeah.
Oh, yeah. We might even be able to bypass the college and just ask the campus police.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't think that the college isn't in session. That's the other big bonus.
But because they have live-ins, it's probably open.
I forget which is which hall is which, but is that a dorm hall, like building?
Probably not. Nordica Auditorium.
I think it's the auditorium.
So here's another I
don't know, for some reason it's just me, but that doesn't seem creepy to me. I'd just be like,
well, fun fact, I was surprised that it was on any list because we did a show there. You were there. Nothing happened then. We were there pretty late into the night, packing up and everything afterwards.
Like we were there with all the lights on and 100 people and cameras and nothing happened.
Well, why would a ghost care?
Ghosts are very self-conscious and they don't like to be seen around in large crowds. Everyone knows that they're agoraphobic.
Nice.
Took me a second. I couldn't
remember. That was good. I wonder what the big lead up was. Well done. Well done. I'm getting to look behind the veil too. You start unzipping your shorts. Like, no.
I'm sorry. I thought
like, wrong veil.
I thought you were saying it was undone.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe that is a dead end. But that's the thing is it's like,
I mean, I think it'd be
if you're not someone that's that has experienced something, I really feel like that's going to be our take on every place.
Yeah, and it's probably honestly just the not romanticism, just like the eeriness of like an older, creepier building that more things happened in that are like questionable or sketchy, or that somebody obviously died here.
You were proving a point that I tried to make to Nate. What? I don't think he bought this one about my long-standing theory of the Hollywood effect. So
for sure,
I told him that I think old houses have such an effect because, right, they are the place that
there's an ambiguity. There's like,
well, it's just every location scout goes to those places and picks those places. When you're pulling out of your encyclopedia in your head, when you see an old abandoned creepy house and you go, where have I seen this? How should I feel about it? Guess what comes up? Every horror movie you've seen with a creepy rundown house. And there's lots of them.
And the only reason they pick those is because there's long histories that aren't well documented.
Right.
That anything could have happened, and they're like, oh, we can make up a story about this place versus the place that was built 19 years ago. Like, this guy died here, and some guy in the other room's like, no, I didn't.
Yeah, right. But that's what I said to him. I was like, well, because he makes a good point, counterpoint, actually. This was a really good counterpoint, that he thinks, because I said I would hedge a bet that 100 years ago, if they saw a house that at that point was 100 years old, that would be pretty normal. Even if it was run down, a lot of that stuff wasn't upkept like it is now. I mean, our safety codes and everything are just insane. Things are pretty well kept if they're new. So I said to him, I would hedge a bet that they wouldn't be scared because they wouldn't have Hollywood scaring them about those places unless a place had an urban legend about it. And he said, I don't think so. I think it might have been worse because their belief in all these things that science have proven wrong were higher. And I said, so I get that point, but does that extend to being scared by houses because they looked run down? If the majority of houses in a village were,
they look old
were older and run down, why would you be scared
I guess
by
it? Depends on.
What's your take?
It's so hard to say because I didn't live in that.
Now, you
time.
like that? Right on the
I'd
spot.
I'd have to go back to that time.
No, we know. So would we. I'm asking your take.
But what I'm saying is, like, it's hard to say what somebody's perception of a rundown house would be. Like, was that commonplace? Would it be eerie to them that something was abandoned? I mean, there's a lot of abandoned villages and things like that just got abandoned for different reasons. Well, if it was unknown, if they stumbled across it, probably be pretty creepy. If they knew about it and knew the story, not creepy.
Because he judoed me. That was a great response when he said that, because it kind of balanced out the scale I was picturing, which is that we have an abundance of Hollywood effect. Yeah. And they didn't. But they had an abundance of superstition, way more than we do now.
Right.
So it's like, do those even out? What do you think? I would think old and abandoned was a normalcy for them. So I don't think it would, like, a house inherently on its own, just on appearance, would be creepy unless there was some tale attached to it.
Yeah, I think it was more common too back then. You settled in an area, not even necessarily 100 years ago, but more than that, I guess I'm thinking. But like,
I guess I am too, even though I said 100. I'm thinking like 2 or 3.
Yeah,
250.
Like
something, early America,
like early 1800s,
early white America, whatever.
I would say that, like, it was probably not that uncommon for, like, someone to come to a village or a village to be settled, and then weather gets harsh or whatever happens, there's a big fire, and everything gets abandoned because there's just nothing there. It's too much to rebuild, so they relocate to the nearest town or nearest whatever civilization and incorporate into their society. And so you just end up with this abandoned village. So it's probably more common. Like, we don't do that these days,
right?
So I mean, that's just complete speculation, but I would almost think that they'd be. Well,
it's a hard question.
Yeah, it is a hard question.
I'm letting you stew on it because I don't really even have a good answer.
It's the same thing. I think if they stumbled across it, if they're in their travels and they see an abandoned house, they'd probably, they might go more quickly to, like, oh, a witch lived there, and it's,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Don't ever go near it because.
But this is exactly my point, because it's like, how much of our perception of people back then is completely based in movies and media we've seen about them. Almost all of it, because we don't know people from back then.
Right.
So it's like when we're like, everyone was timid of the witch's house in the woods. What if that's a complete fallacy? That's a complete tale. We don't know. Or like, they were creeped out when they saw old places and all the kids knew that was the scary house. Don't go in it. You don't know. Just because that's what is shown on movies, you don't know. You weren't in these villages that long ago. It's tough.
I forget how few people ago that was.
Yeah, not many.
Like, I had to do something for my dad the other day, and he had to give me my grandmother's date of birth, and she was born in 1935, which is, she's not that old. She's 86, right? Yeah.
Oh, she's still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking my grandmother. She was like late 20s, 27.
My grandmother's mother, who died when I was young. Yeah, when I was very young. Had a heart attack, I think, but she wasn't crazy old back then, but like, she'd be like 120 today or something like that. But
she was born 1800s, late 1800s.
Pretty sure.
Isn't that crazy? Like, we are really not that many generations removed from early American settlers. That's crazy. Time is an incredibly odd thing. Some might call it paranormal. Like, nope. Never heard that.
That's something that blows my mind. If you want to talk about something that's just really hard to wrap your head around, is the concept of there not being time at certain points in. Well,
it's just an equation. It's just a measuring unit. It's like, people really get wrapped up in it. Like, I love Christopher Nolan's take in Interstellar when they're down on that water planet with the huge waves and they come up and it's only been a couple hours or something, but to the guy that was left up there to watch the ship, it had been years. That's crazy. That's absolutely, I can't even construct that.
That's what I'm saying is like, yeah. I mean, and I think that's a little bit drastic because I don't think there's any 2 points that close together, although.
Well, wasn't it speed of?
It's speed of something, but like I don't think the physics of that would work. I think if you ask a physicist, I don't think the physics of that would work, but like to make that much of a difference, because like the satellites orbiting the Earth at like 17 or 20 something thousand miles per hour have experienced like a few hundredths of a second, less than 1/100th of a second per year.
Are you sure?
Like, difference. It's something like that.
I look it up and it's like
fractions of fractions of a second.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
So it's like how on what scale would that be different? So like I think 2 points that close in space probably would be unlikely unless it was like what I'm thinking of is like the event horizon of a black hole where time like doesn't exist. It's like, so if you go there and you remain there for a period of time, no time, that's just blows my mind.
I see, the problem is in my mind, I look at the scope of time in relation to aging.
Right.
Which technically would still have to happen because you're still aging even if time doesn't exist.
You don't necessarily have to biologically age.
Well, you would, right?
You would, but there's also they're doing studies now that say that there's no biological reason why we have to age and that they think they can reverse it.
Wild.
Yeah.
We had talked about last episode. I had asked you if we could figure it out, could travel the speed of light. And in Arthur C. Well, of course, it's a book, but in Arthur C. Clarke, it was based around a lot of, at the time, theories and known, like some known laws. He was saying, or someone in the book was saying, that organic material can't
what?
Travel at the speed of light. That's what I mean. It's a book of fiction, obviously, but I don't know. I mean, they were trying to base a lot. It's just like, yeah, Interstellar is also fiction, but he consulted so many people. He tried to put that in whatever framework he could, given the
I'd have to watch it again. I think I've only seen Interstellar the one time, so I'd have to watch that scene.
Dude,
I don't remember I don't remember what their explanation was for the time difference in that particular instance where they were on the planet and he was up orbiting.
It was definitely like kind of a nod to Kubrick. You can tell that Nolan loves him, and you could just tell. Like it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same, like, 3 acts kind of thing, but like that, it was very eerily in ways like. At the end of 2001, when he's traveling through the Stargate or whatever it is, and there's all those lines and stuff, and then you look at Nolan's take on time when he's at wherever he is way in the end, and he's like messing with time, and you find out that it didn't exist, and he's pulling on instances that he experienced. Remember in the beginning when like a book keeps falling off, and like there's spelling in the floor and dirt or something? He's actually doing that in the future. But in the past,
I think it was the order in which he was pushing the books or something like
that. Yeah. But still, like, if you buy the theory that you could go so fast and so far that you could find yourself again, that's
one of
wild.
My suspected, or one of
it's one of my suspected theories in the book I'm working on.
So one of my possible theories of like ghosts is that like it's everything that has ever occurred is occurring at the same time. It's
exactly my take on it.
Entropy, they say, increases as you go forward in time, and so like every time you make a decision, the universe essentially branches into 2 different versions. One where you made the other decision, one where you made the decision that you made. And
not quite that obvious, but yeah.
Yeah, in layman's terms, but which is the only terms I know it in.
Like, well, I'm talking to. So.
But so like, yeah, if you accept that as a reality, and like so everything, I don't know, is still occurring. So it's like, if you're seeing a ghost, you're not really seeing something that happened 1,000 years ago. You're seeing something, or 100 years ago, you're seeing something that's currently happening in some sort of different plane of reality that's just kind of leaking through to your reality. But
it's so, man,
but that
so
aging
weird
thing, that I don't remember exactly how it works, but they're talking about like being able to reverse degenerative diseases like eye diseases and stuff like that by literally just like dialing back the age of your eyes 30 years.
Yeah, but how?
So you have another 20 years. It was explained in somebody.
I get knowing that the theory is loose. Like when they're like, well, there's no real reason in science that you need to age, but there is. I mean, we lose the ability to regenerate cells.
Right, but it's the cell division. If you slow down the cell division or something like that, there's something that they can do to prevent the cells from doing whatever.
So they're talking about like
aging,
biohacking, like hacking cells.
Yeah, completely.
That's cool.
But and we're doing something that causes them to be able to reverse it, like basically hit rewind for briefly, and dial it back to the point where like, okay, you've got another 10 years before your eyes need to be, or your whatever needs to be
Dude,
you know.
Everyone thinks of that stuff sometimes. Like I just said it's cool and thought about how many people are going to be like, dude, that's scary shit. I'm like, oh yeah, try dying of dementia.
Right.
That's scary shit. What's the alternate?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we have this idea that we're like, you know, it's a beautiful land, and it's like maybe for some people.
Right.
You know, it's like, come on. I welcome, you know, I'm kind of a futurist in a way. Like I really do. I'm not that worried about it. I mean,
no,
I get the
welcome the future, you mean? Just in general?
And futuristic ideas and things. It's like
for sure.
People, there is some cause for concern.
We're going to make mistakes, but it's...
Yeah, of course. And people like with AI, there's been a lot of like theories that I guess I get, but again, it still sounds like worried banter sometimes. And it's even by smart minds.
A little bit of the Hollywood effect too. We've
Yes,
created too many movies where robots took us over and we forget that they have an off switch.
Right, so long as we can not be restrained from hitting it.
Like I would
advise
Mr. AI, whoever's looking into this.
Yeah, in the future when you in 5 seconds go over our whole life's worth of media.
Right. I would advise against building the first fully autonomous robot to be some super warrior.
You probably
not a good
don't
idea.
do that. Yeah. When he's sick of the barracks, he's going to go a little crazy on
Probably
everyone.
make him only good at like one thing that we can easily distract him from.
Yeah, right. But weirdly enough, we're like, without you even knowing, because you've never seen it, I don't think. You've never seen 2001: A Space Odyssey. You're talking about heavy themes in that movie. The AI goes awry. Not trying to rhyme. Or am I? And he has to find an extremely clever way to kill it. And it's very difficult because Hal is the name of the computer. He is also running all of the major components of the ship to keep it alive. It's really wild. And then you think about, I can't remember, I think it was Saturn they were going to. I don't remember. I should know this because I love that movie. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Some far reaches of our solar system, which isn't really that far in the
No.
You know, in the grand scheme. But he gets so far out there in this. I'm listening to the audiobook and I've seen the movie a bunch, and I'm like, I forget. Did you see Ad Astra?
No.
Similar concept. Like, imagine the feeling of alone and hopelessness that would be being in those shoes, being out in the outer limits of our solar system with no obvious way to get back.
Even like in Gravity, when she becomes untethered from the ship, and she just like, think about the fact that if you just get nudged off and just start going,
You're gone. You're not stopping.
Yeah.
It's
and
insane.
you're in the empty vacuum of infinite space.
It's wild.
Terrifying and wild, yeah. But, and I think I always think that I forget to put into perspective. I think of, is it Voyage or Voyager, the movie with the guy that plays in Guardians of the Galaxy. He plays
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt, yes.
I don't even know he was in another space movie.
Yeah, I think he was in that one, right? Yeah.
What is that? Is it new?
Ish. It's a handful of years old, but it's the one where they're in the big ship and like they all get put into like a deep sleep and they're going like 100 light years away.
And he wakes up someone so he's not alone.
Yes.
And they build like this ecosystem.
They wake up like halfway through, so it's like 50 light years away, but it's like 75 years of travel or something like that. They wake up, and he is going insane, and so he wakes up this girl and lies.
Jennifer
and says
Lawrence,
lies and says that there's a malfunction, that she got woken up as well, but really only his malfunctioned, and he just didn't want to be alone, and blah blah blah. So
it is a really cool story. It's Passengers, right?
Passengers, yes. Yeah.
It's funny, I didn't even know what movie you were talking about at first, and now I know the name.
But I remember thinking like, holy, they've gone a long ways, because they were like, oh, they've been traveling 50 years at like 90% the speed of light or something like that, and I was like, holy cow, 50, that's a long ways. But I was like, wait, that's less than 50 light years, and I was like, our galaxy alone is 100,000 light years across.
This is the question.
You're like less than half of 1/1000th of the way across one galaxy.
It's absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Here's the
It's
question.
mind-boggling, but thank you.
Is it?
It's mind-boggling is what the correct term is. No, I'm just
I was gonna say, fuck you. So, you said it so straight up, like, really? I wish I had my other soundboard so I can you. Here's the question. That is crazy. What I always think about, and of course that's the point of the movie, is if you were in his shoes and you're like, well, it's certain death. I mean, there's everything here to keep me alive till I die, but I'm dying here alone. Period.
I wake up as many people as I can because the more people that are mad at me, the more fun I'm going to have.
Well, yeah, we know
make
you
it
would. You live to make me mad. But yeah, I really think about that. Like, would I honestly kill someone else? That's what he's doing.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
I mean, that's the conflict.
And, well, doesn't it end? Spoiler alert.
Do you have to? That's the other question. Here's the biggest question tonight.
Them, like, basically leaving like some sort of message where like they spent the rest of their lives and blah blah blah.
Yeah, they ended up happy. I think they had a kid,
but like everyone wakes up and would have discovered this home that they created on the spaceship.
And they planned stuff and whatever. The biggest question of the night is: do we have to give a spoiler warning for movies that are? What is the age a movie has to be old that you have to give a spoiler warning? That movie's like,
it has to be able to
6
vote.
years old.
It has to be able to vote. 18.
Gotta be able to buy condoms. I think you can buy condoms whenever. It's probably safe to have them if you need them.
Oh, they want you to have kids.
It would seem that way. 56 minutes. See, the first, I was like, wow, this one's dragging. And then I look, I'm like, it was just 20.
Yeah.
So we should be on the tail end. What do we want to wrap up with? What do we have, a fun story or a goal or something we want to? We should have done a Reddit read. I'm going to look up an r/paranormal real quick. All right. I'm going to hit this. I'm going to just blind scroll. You tell me to stop. I will give it a minute. There you go. Wait.
Okay. Stop. Okay, whatever.
Oh, this is really uncanny. What was one of the biggest ghosts?
You're like, oh, this is really uncanny. This one's actually
also,
paranormal. Like,
this is
a paranormal thread. Oh, still.
Hey, it's weird. It's about this is what we're talking about. I might, if this one under it is shorter because I was right between them, I might do this because that was really long. It's not. So I'm reading the top one. What is the biggest thing that my sister and your ex
have ever seen?
Yeah. Steve? Oh my God. No, obviously not. But also, what's the, you're so stupid. What's her big trip about ghosts? What did she see?
Oh, the thing in the kitchen.
What was it called?
What was it called?
Yeah, what did she call it?
I don't know. Apparition?
Like a shadow.
Shadow. Okay, yeah.
Distinction between shadow people and shadow figures. Weird. Okay. This isn't very short, so maybe this is a really stupid idea. I'm going to try to speed read. Get those ears tuned. Good evening, everyone. I thought today I'd like to discuss something I commonly see from many pieces of evidence gathered pertaining to shadowy figures and how many people immediately assume them to be shadow people. At the time of writing, we do not have any conclusive evidence to support what such apparitions are. Leaving for much speculation, however, I've found that there are some clear distinctions between the two, and hopefully this insight can help alleviate some fears or discomforts on the matter. I was just about to ask, I didn't know there were two different things, and hey, dum-dum, the next thing is, for starters, what's a shadow person? So let's get into it. Shadow people, I'll shorten to SP for ease, so will I for ease, are manifestations that appear as solid black humanoids and are most commonly encountered by people experiencing sleep paralysis, night terrors, or other sleep disorders. These malevolent entities can appear as a single being or in small groups, and in some instances appear to be in the company of a SP that is colloquially called the Hat Man, commonly seen with people with sleep paralysis. I know that.
On the tall man, right? Or something.
I don't know if they're the same, but yeah, the Hat Man is a commonly seen
top hat type of thing.
Yep. As indicated by the appearance of a brimmed hat such as a fedora. They are also routinely reported around locations that are assumed to be portals and vortexes. which are locations of strong electromagnetic, geomagnetic energy, which are thought to be gateways or spiritual beings. I didn't know that was sound science. They say this as if it's fact. There's a great deal of debate whether SPs are demons, ultradimensional entities, aliens, or simply misidentified intruders made terrifying by mild hallucinations brought on by the aforementioned sleep disorders.
Those are all the possibilities. There's nothing else it could be.
Listen, many accounts relating to those entities describe them as cruel and uncompromising, with some attacks from these beings being on par with the most intense of so-called demonic attacks. Although it is unclear if SPs have the ability to possess living persons, they are able to have profound influence on them. There are even some speculations that these entities are able to control demonic forces to do their will, though to what extent is still unknown, if indeed they do control such forces. In photographs and films, SPs appear solid, as they do when viewed in person, and are black, darker than whatever shadows surround them. They are not known to have black mists manifest around them, and though most of these frightful beings are featureless, there have been reports of some having red eyes or wide, toothy mouths, which stand out starkly on their pitch black form. That is terrifying.
Yeah.
If I saw that, I'd believe it. That's the problem. If I saw that, and I saw it, whether it was real or something in my mind, I'd be terrified. The key right there, or this right here, is the key distinction. They are solid masses. Many photographs, videos, and sightings of shadowy forms have usually been very mist-like, transparent, or amorphous in shape, with a core that is darker than the rest and usually doesn't remain within visual range for more than a fleeting moment. So what are those shadows then? This is where things are much more broad and generalized. Both humans and non-human entities, including elements, so-called demons, etc., or elementals, rarely have the energy to materialize in our plane of existence in a physical form that is perceptible to common human senses, namely visual. The manifestations of shadowy forms are likely similar to the orb phenomena, wherein the spirits have to keep their energy in a manageable shape to allow them to move around with minimal loss of energy. I have to stop him because why do we act like there's sound science behind how, like, it's crazy that we're like, ghosts takes all the energy to manifest. Says who?
I think without saying it, he's saying that that's a theory, kind of. He's kind of saying
Hollywood
that's
effect.
Yeah.
In fact, many people who have taken pictures of these spirits claim they never saw the shadow figures until after the pictures developed. Though I have heard that's pretty common to the people that have so-called captured them. It is unclear if all spirits are capable of this form of manifestation, however, and it has been commonly believed that seeing such shadowy spirits means a more malevolent being may be present. I imagine for so-called demonic entities, a black inky form with no defined shape would invoke a great deal of fear from their intended victims, granting them more negative energy on which to feed and grow. Again, we know that's how they eat. It's out. We know. Conversely, there are stories of people who have taken such photographs and believed it was the spirit of a recently deceased loved one, and usually only every encounter the misty apparitions a handful of times with no negative activity following. Regardless, I hope that this will provide some insight for anyone out there who have encountered something like this and were unsure whether they were haunted by some terrible SP or not. Again, this is speculative, and as time goes on, I hope that new evidence will come to light that can further explain these mysterious events. But what do you think? What are your thoughts on this subject? Steve, what do you think, and what are your thoughts on that subject?
I think it's undiscovered technology, and it's interdimensional beings that are traveling to see us, and they have to draw energy from our universe in order to manifest themselves, and that's what creates. No, I'm just kidding. I was just thinking about that though. Like, you could say that, these shadowy, dark figures. I think I captured part of that, which was that, like, they absorb energy to,
I guess,
do different things, and they have to, whatever. But if let's say, for argument's sake, they're black and they're a void because they're absorbing the energy in order to manifest themselves. If they're absorbing things, wouldn't that, like, energy typically is associated with light, not darkness? Darkness is usually a void, an emptiness.
Right.
I don't know.
The problem is fitting their parameters within known ones. And I think that's where it falls apart for me. It's like,
and I mean, they could be killed with a flashlight, so I don't know.
Dude, that is a spooky cut on Sinister 2, maybe the first one, when he's in like the church and he shines a flashlight and it's gone. And he shines it away and the shadows are there. He shines it, they're gone. He shines it away, they're closer. Oh, dude, it's so well done. But anyway, my thoughts, because I was reading and half paying attention because I was trying to be kind of quick, but also entertaining. Like, well, you failed on both. Is that when you add in other things that I think are just like, a lot of people buy the orb thing. I had my mother's like insufferable friends that are like, there, every time there's an orb in your thing, your picture there, your dead kids in there. Cause you know, I'm like, oh my God, you guys, I am a photographer, amateur photographer, videographer, whatever. You know how many things have orbs in them because they're lint?
Right. Particles of anything floating in the air. Mist, like fog.
Yep.
Take a picture in fog. They're everywhere.
In fact, fog machines make a more orb-like image. That's why like big productions use mist, hazing machines. They're way more expensive, but they create such a fine particle that it looks more homogeneous. It's not so it's like when you're like, well, this is what some people think orbs are. It's like, oh my, like the jury's not out on orbs. Right. Like, so it's hard for me when you're making a theory based on other stuff and presenting it as fact. It falls apart for me.
Orbs, to me, like, I guess they're one of the more logical things scientifically, just because it's like, okay, if you had a point of condensed energy or whatever, it would, you know, theoretically, you put a bunch of energy into one place, what's it going to manifest as? Some sort of electromagnetic radiation or light, in other words. In whatever spectrum,
I have to stretch so much science.
Right, that's the thing is, to me, it's like it doesn't. It's still I don't believe it. Doesn't make any sense.
Why would that be the way that it happens?
Right.
I mean, if they're not of this dimension or astral plane, why do they have to abide by our rules?
Well, not to mention, like it draws on the assumption that there's this conscious entity that is deliberately drawing on energy sources, essentially, to manifest itself. But just in order to exist in that state would require enough energy that they would probably already be visible. You know what I mean? Like, there's a substantial amount of energy that requires us to just have a conscious mind that's capable of
living
thought
body
and interacting with things. You know what I mean? Like interacting with things in an intelligent way and responding to communication. So it's like, to me, it's like you're almost kind of shooting yourself in the foot with that with that argument, because you're saying they need to draw on this energy in order to manifest themselves or whatever. But it's like, if they already exist to that level, that's quite a bit of energy.
Well, right. And my thought on it is like, if the only way we can quote unquote prove these shadow figures or shadow people, whatever, that I didn't really get the distinction. It sounded, you were listening, I was reading. Did it really, I didn't hear the clear.
I think it was something along the lines of like the shadow figures or whatever
have definitive edges, and
the SPs initially was like the defined edges and darker than shadows around them and things like that.
Right, these are solid black people.
Shadow people are like shadows. They look like shadows. They're just,
they feather out.
A lot of times softer edges and things like that.
And maybe aren't even full people. They're like the shape of a person.
And I think a lot of the footage, like surveillance footage like that you see that claims to capture ghosts, is shadow people. It's like you see this like what appears to be like a really loose shadow just travel across the screen. And it's like,
so that's where I was getting. The only quote unquote proof we have is things that we're seeing in pictures. So it's like, why are shadow people? Why is this a theory? Like, because I said orbs are common phenomena in photography, and photographers know what they are. So it's like, I would imagine, I don't have an answer for what that would actually be, but I'm sure somebody does.
Right.
That has dug into that. I mean,
orbs or
shadow figures in a picture. I mean, it's like, what, again, it's okay if one of the jumps is your dead loved one, but the first one.
I will say, if you take a picture in a dark room and it's like, with no flash, whatever, in a darker room, and you somehow like a really high sensitivity camera and really wide aperture, and you can capture enough to be able to see in the room, and there's just this one clearly defined like black as heck figure in the middle of the screen that like is clearly separate from everything else. A picture wouldn't convince me of anything, but if I took the picture, if I put the camera in that room and knew there was nothing in there,
I was waiting for you to be done to say the same thing. I would have to be in the room, take the picture, turn the light on, and no one be in there, but have that. It couldn't even just kind of look like the rough dimensions of a person. It would have to look like a person.
Right. It would have,
and then okay, shadow people definitely exist.
Right.
But my thing is, it's not that I haven't seen evidence that it's kind of like that. It's that I don't know the source. Was it analog? Was it digital? Was it something with development? Was it a cross exposure? That happens a lot. Like my mom used to hold on to a picture of my stepdad in the same picture as my little sister when she was a baby, like walking into frame. And she's like, oh my God. I'm not kidding. She's like, I think you like transcended for a minute. And you want to know where my skepticism comes from. I was like, come on. Get a grip, dude. Because guess what that was to them? God love them and God rest her soul. Science she didn't understand yet.
Right.
I mean, she just literally didn't have the answers. It's like you could have asked anyone and they would have told you what that was. Right. I think that's a benefit of our free internet age. There's a lot of data and a lot of knowledge that's free. Problem with that is it's not really vetted.
And a lot of like my father's the same way in the sense that like if he has certain beliefs, but he doesn't spend any time, not that I'm the best at it, but he doesn't spend any time researching why he believes what he believes or researching anything that contradicts it. It's all just, I look up articles or stories about things that I believe happen.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, yeah, then you're going to believe it. You're going to continue to believe it always. Yeah. But if you deliberately go out of your way to try and find things that explain those things or that offer explanations, then it causes you kind of, in my opinion, can't help but get to the point where you're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. You can't. You're not making any effort to find a consensus on anything. I think that's important. I think that's what we're trying to do. Again, if you've experienced something, I'm not taking anything away from that.
Right.
Nor will I. I'm just saying I have to have that same experience.
Right.
And if I don't.
And if you know where I can get it.
You're like, you know who to call.
Us up.
Ghostbusters. I love that in Casper. Like, who are you going to call? Someone else. Like, okay.
Who are you going to call? Your insurance company.
Dude, imagine. I bet like during like witch times, like what was that, 1700s? Late 1700s? I don't remember when the Salem witch trials happened. Why don't we do an episode in Salem?
That'd be cool.
We should easily could do that, and we should.
Even just walking, go to different places and
yeah, just in public so that we don't need permissions for things. I wonder if insurance companies back then had a witch policy. Like if you're renting to a tenant and she's a witch,
I'm gonna wear a Ghostbusters T-shirt to our thing, and then underneath it's gonna be a Progressive T-shirt or Geico because I have Geico. And then I'm just, when something happens, I'm like, who are you going to call? And then you guys went Ghostbusters. I'm like, I'm going to whip my Ghostbusters t-shirt off. And I'm just going to say Geico. I'm like, no, your insurance company.
Your company's going to be called Geisto.
Just stupid what you said.
Dirty poop mouth. Oh, man. An hour and 12 minutes in. Why do we always do these at night? Late at night, we're the worst. Well, what do you think, Steve? Do you think that wraps it up?
I would say so, yeah.
I think it was good. Yeah. We were all over the place, but we found some cool common meeting ground and cool points and things to go over. We should make r/paranormal reads a thing. We should read something from each one and take our take on it. Nice, fun content.
I would like to read stories, accounts of things that they've experienced.
I bet there's a r/paranormal account. I mean, Reddit has everything. It's such a plethora of stuff like that. So we will do that. I'm very excited to have Michelle on. We will, I don't think by the time they see this again, because we're actively backlogging episodes, I think by the time they see this, we will have already had her on. So I want to have another episode to promote it. So if you've seen this episode, chances are, stay tuned for 4 because it's going to have Michelle joining us, even if it's a quick, intro call to find out who she is, what she does, and if she can shed some light on some of these things that Steve and I are desperately trying to find our identity on.
Yeah.
Not some of the things you're trying to find your identity on, because I don't think you can help with that. But until next time, you guys stay spooky. I have been Steve.
And I've been Daniel.
And stay normies.
You should already start recording. It's not. Oh, it is recording.
All right.
That's.
Don't touch them. We're done. We're starting. We're recording, in case you didn't know. Fuck. How do I deal with this?